Man, bro, did a song with Lil Child. Man, y'all, shut y'all. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
That is Lewel Tim, the man responsible for shooting King Von, publicly calling out every OBlock member after Chief Keef collaborated with NBA YoungBoy. The block lost their brother, and now the individual who took his life is taunting them on camera. How did OBlock respond in a way that silenced the internet? And has Tim just sealed his own fate? Let us break it all down.
Well, Tim responded to people being mad at Chief Keef and NBA YoungBoy just announcing a new collab dropping soon. This is something to talk about.
Sosa linked with the opposition, and the block lost its composure entirely. On February 13th, 2026, the rap landscape was operating as usual. Fans were scrolling their timelines, engaging in the perennial debate over top 5 rankings, living or deceased. Then, without any warning whatsoever, a track surfaced that had the entire culture doing a collective double-take. The record was titled Rooms, produced by Mike Will Made It, and it featured 2 names that had absolutely no business occupying the same instrumental, NBA YoungBoy and Chief Keef. The moment studio footage reached the internet showing these 2 artists working together in the lab, seemingly without a care in the world, the streets erupted. Not in a casual, that's interesting fashion. This was a full-scale detonation. Twitter ablaze, every major blog publishing within the hour, comment sections overflowing with disbelief. Because if you understand the history, if you comprehend what these names represent, the lives lost, the feuds waged, and the broken bonds that exist between them, then you already recognize this was not merely a collaboration, this was a declaration. And the block took it deeply, irreversibly personal.
I want to see why people had a saying that the best thing Chief Keef could have done was distance himself from OBlock and get out of Chicago.
Let us establish exactly who we are dealing with, because context is absolutely everything when it comes to the streets. Chief Keef, government name Keith Farrell Cozart, born August 15th, 1995, is unequivocally the originator of OBlock and the individual who single-handedly invented drill music. That is not hyperbole, that is documented fact. Sosa grew up in Parkway Gardens homes on the south side of Chicago, the same housing projects that were renamed OBlock in 2011 following the loss of O.D. Perry. This is a young man who was rapping at 5 years old on his mother's karaoke machine. By the time he was a teenager, confined to house arrest in 2011 on a firearm charge, he was uploading freestyles to YouTube that quite literally birthed an entire subgenre of hip-hop, one that would go on to influence the global musical landscape. The gritty production, the auto-tune ad-libs, and the raw and unfiltered bars depicting what life genuinely looks like growing up in the trenches, all of that is Sosa's blueprint. Every drill artist who emerged after him, from UK practitioners to Atlanta trap artists, they are all building upon the foundation this man laid while he was still a teenager.
What's the body? I get shot in my right hip bone, and I get shot on my ass. It go in and out though.
By 2012, Sosa was not merely popular, he was the most electrifying figure in hip-hop. His mixtape, Back from the Dead, and the anthem, I Don't Like, which Kanye West heard and subsequently assembled an entire remix featuring Pusha T, Jadakiss, and Big Sean, did not simply go viral. It reached the Billboard Hot 100 and ignited a bidding war that culminated in a $6 million deal with Interscope Records, inclusive of his own Glory Boys Entertainment imprint. His debut album, Finally Rich, dropped that same year with features from 50 Cent and Wiz Khalifa. Tracks like Love Sosa, which has since achieved quintuple platinum certification, cemented his status as the godfather of drill music. But here is the element that remains woefully under-discussed. He was 16 years old, a child carrying the weight of an entire neighborhood on his shoulders while evading genuine, life-threatening opposition who wanted him eliminated. His team recognized the trajectory and relocated him to a suburban mansion in Northfield at just 16 or 17 years of age. That was the first step toward the exit, and he never truly returned. Now, on the opposite end of this track sits NBA youngboy, Kentrell Deshaun Gaulden from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, one of the most streamed rappers on the entire planet. Under ordinary circumstances, a collaboration between two artists of this magnitude would simply represent a victory for all parties involved. However, what transforms this situation into a powder keg is youngboy's deep, acrimonious, years-long conflict with Lil Durk and OTF. We are talking about diss tracks. We are talking about subliminal shots embedded in every album. We are talking about affiliations with individuals who have been directly connected to real-life violence involving OTF members. Youngboy has disrespected King Von, rest in peace, on wax more than once. And Von was OBlock royalty. He was the heart of that block's identity after Keef departed. In the eyes of OBlock, NBA Youngboy is not simply a rival rapper, he is the opposition. Capital O, capital P, capital P.
Loyalty for me is strong though. It's like loyalty to me is for everybody that a nigga fuck with. So
that clip right there, that is from Lul Tim himself, the man who shot King Von, casually recounting the night that altered everything. We will delve deeply into that momentarily, but understand what this establishes. The founding member of OBlock making music with the opposition of the man who attempted to avenge what Tim did to their brother. That is precisely why the streets erupted. And the numbers on Rooms proved this was not merely drama. The track was genuinely ascending. 1.3 million YouTube views in 4 days, 1.2 million on TikTok, 304,000 first-day Spotify streams. Mike Will made it, crafted it as part of his upcoming album, R3 Set, scheduled for release on March 20th, 2026. The production was exceptional, Youngboy handling the melodic chorus with that raw auto-tune energy he is renowned for, and Sosa sliding in with a substantial verse addressing survival, financial success, and opposition. Classic Keef. But the block was not having any of it, not in the slightest. OBlock and OTF affiliates immediately labeled it a betrayal. They declared unequivocally that Sosa was switching allegiances, turning on his own people for a paycheck and some studio time. One affiliate posted that Keef had gone against his own and declared that OBlock would forever prosper and stand strong without him. Others went even further, stating that Keef was permanently banned from ever setting foot on the block again, which, in all fairness, is a remarkable declaration considering the man has not been to Chicago in years. But the emotion behind it was genuine and deeply felt. To them, this collaboration felt as though Sosa was desecrating Von's memory, as though he was endorsing everything Youngboy and his camp represented. The disses, the mockery, the entire hostile energy that had been directed at OBlock since November 2020. And in the streets, perception is everything. It does not matter what your intentions were. What matters is how the streets receive it. And the streets received Rooms like an open-handed slap across the face.
Out and you shoot 4 times.
yeah, the gun jammed.
Oh, the gun jammed.
Yeah.
That concept of loyalty, that fundamental question of who you ride for and who rides for you, who is solid and who is operating with deceit, is exactly what sits at the core of this entire situation. Because this was never about a song, not even close. This was about a decade plus of accumulated resentment, broken bonds, stolen property, unpaid bail, and a block that felt the man who put them on the map packed his bags and left them all behind without so much as a backward glance. To understand why OBlock felt the way they felt when Rooms dropped, you must go back to the beginning. Back to when the relationship between Keef and the block first began curdling into something bitter and irreparable. The fallout, the violations, and the blood that never dried. The animosity between Chief Keef and OBlock did not originate with Rooms. It did not even originate with Youngboy. If you truly want to trace this back to its source, the friction extends all the way back to when Sosa first began accumulating wealth, and the individual who was supposed to be riding alongside him from day one started harboring resentment. That individual was Lil Durk. Born Dirk Derrick Banks in 1992, Durk came up on Inglewood's 300 block, also known as Lamron, situated right around the corner from OBlock on the south side. Both were Black Disciples affiliates who connected through mutual associates during their formative years. They occupied the same trenches, evaded the same gunfire, and aspired to escape through the same avenue. Dirk has even been quoted saying that Keef put Chicago on the map during the early drill wave. For a brief period, Sosa and Dirk appeared poised to dominate the city together, two young talents from the South Side on the verge of conquering the entire game. But around 2013, the entire dynamic shifted. The word on the streets was straightforward. Dirk caught a gun charge and needed financial assistance for bail, approximately $10,000. Keef allegedly did not post it, and that was not even the first occurrence of such a situation. Reportedly, OBlock's own Trey 5 needed approximately $25,000 for bond, and Keef did not come through for that either. To the individuals still stationed on the block, still living that life, still burying friends and accumulating charges, Sosa's decade-long absence did not register as personal growth. It registered as abandonment, as though he made it out, closed the door behind him, and forgot about everyone still trapped inside. That resentment had been accumulating like steam in a pressure cooker for over 10 years by the time Rooms dropped and blew the lid clean off.
It's the second time I done got shot.
Are you more calm about it this time since you've gone through it before?
Yeah, because like the first time I got shot, I didn't even have a panic attack.
Tim posted a $100,000 bond in March 2021 and existed under that cloud of uncertainty for over 2 years, awaiting the system's determination of his fate. Then, in August 2023, Fulton County prosecutors executed what no one in OBlock believed was possible. They dismissed every single charge against him before a grand jury could even issue an indictment. They cited Georgia's Stand Your Ground law. The security footage clearly depicted Vaughn initiating physical contact and serving as the aggressor, and the state ultimately determined that Tim was acting to protect his associate from serious bodily harm. The legal system examined the evidence and classified it as self-defense. Tim's attorney, Noah Pines, stated plainly, the case against Mr. Leaks was dismissed prior to ever being indicted. Case closed. Just like that. For OBlock, that represented the worst conceivable outcome. The man who put their brother in the ground walked out free, and he did not remain silent afterward. Following the dismissal of those charges, Tim began releasing diss tracks, posting provocative videos, and associating with agitators such as Charleston White, who openly called Vaughn a demon on camera and praised Tim for his actions. It was salt in the wound, month after month after month. And then, 3 days after Rooms reached the internet, Tim did the one thing guaranteed to push OBlock past its breaking point. The clapback that broke the internet wide open. On February 16, 2026, DJ Academics published a clip on his Instagram that had the entire internet choosing sides before the video had even reached the 30-second mark. The post featured a brief video of Lewell Tim, Vaughn's shooter, the man the authorities could not successfully prosecute, staring directly into the camera and addressing OBlock with the type of disrespect from which there is no return. He was not being clever. He was not being subtle. He was explicitly instructing the entire block to be silent and stand down.
Man, bro, did a song with Lil Child. Hey, y'all. Shut y'all bitch. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
Let that settle for a moment. The man who took Vaughn's life, the same Vaughn who was OBlock's heart, their source of pride, the individual who carried the block's legacy on his shoulders through songs, stories, and loyalty that ran to the marrow. This man is on camera calling them out by name, telling them their grief is inconsequential, telling them their anger is hollow, telling them that for all the aggressive rhetoric and internet posturing, they are fundamentally incapable of action. In the culture, in the streets, in any neighborhood in America, those are fighting words, and Tim knew precisely what he was doing. And then, just when it seemed he could not possibly escalate further, he delivered a line that landed harder than any diss track ever recorded. 3 words: get some money. That was not a random display of bravado. That was a calculated strike aimed directly at the most painful vulnerability OBlock and OTF possessed at that moment.
Because what Tim was truly alluding to, the subtext that anyone plugged into the culture understood immediately, was the indictments. By this point, Lil Durk himself, the head of OTF, the man who essentially became the block's lifeline after Keef departed, the self-proclaimed voice of the streets, was sitting in federal custody on murder-for-hire conspiracy charges. Federal authorities had apprehended him near Miami in October 2024 and alleged that he orchestrated a hit on Quanda Rondo as retaliation for Von's death. However, instead of reaching Rondo, the shooters killed Rondo's cousin, Savia Robinson, at a gas station in Los Angeles in August 2022. And it was not Durk alone who was apprehended. 5 of his OTF associates, Kayvon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa Houston, all faced federal charges as well, including conspiracy to commit murder for hire and firearms offenses. Federal prosecutors were characterizing OTF as a criminal enterprise, presenting evidence of OTF-linked credit cards being used to transport shooters across the country. Durk was facing life, not years, life. So when Tim's full statement included references to individuals evading indictments, the implication was unmistakable. Your leader is incarcerated. Your associates are catching federal cases at an alarming rate. Your entire operation is being systematically dismantled by the government, and you are on social media expressing outrage over a song. The audacity was staggering. And regardless of one's personal feelings toward him, that verbal blow connected cleanly. The response from OBlock and their supporters was immediate and volcanic. YouTube channels documented members breaking their silence, issuing threats and promising consequences. Diss tracks were being produced in real time. The energy was hostile and charged. On X, the debate was cleaving the culture in two. One viral post read, "First OBlock disowns Chief Keef, now they're upset because he's making music with the hottest rapper right now." And honestly, that is a valid observation. You cannot excommunicate a man from the family and then dictate who he is permitted to conduct business with. That is simply not how it works. A substantial portion of the hip-hop community was supporting Sosa on this matter. Comments such as, "It's business, never personal. Chief understands that. That's why he's free and still alive," were flooding every platform. People were highlighting the obvious truth. The individuals screaming loyalty the loudest were the same ones who allegedly robbed Keef's residence, confiscated his firearms, and never once supported him when he needed it most. The hypocrisy was so glaring, it was almost comedic. You cannot disown a man, burglarize his home, take his weapons, refuse to acknowledge his legacy, and then, years later, turn around and dictate who he is allowed to make music with. That is not loyalty, that is entitlement. And the internet ensured OBlock received that message loud and clear. Hot New Hip Hop covered the discourse, noting that despite all the hostility on social media, no physical escalations had been confirmed. It remained entirely digital warfare at that stage, heated, emotional, deeply personal, and divided straight down the center of the culture. But what this entire situation truly exposed, what it dragged into the light for everyone to witness, was the fundamental contradiction at the heart of street loyalty in hip-hop. Chief Keef departed OBlock an entire decade ago. He observed from Los Angeles while Boss Top allegedly violated his home, while Von took his firearms, while the block he put on the map turned around and treated him as though he were the opposition. He constructed a new life on the West Coast, 9 children, his own label, independence, peace. He accomplished what everyone claims they aspire to. He made it out. He survived. And now, because he contributed a verse alongside the wrong person, the same individuals who pushed him away want to drag him back into the politics he spent a decade outrunning. The logic simply doesn't hold.
Other partner was there. Like, I got loyalty for him. I got loyalty for my other partner. Like, that's just how I am.
And that is Tim himself discussing loyalty, what it signifies to him. The irony is profound enough to be almost suffocating. Because the entire argument from OBlock's perspective centers on loyalty, on codes, on rules, on who you can and cannot associate with. But the reality is that those very same codes are what resulted in Dirk's incarceration, got 5 of his associates indicted, put Vaughn in a casket, and left the remainder of the block waging battles on the internet while federal agents construct cases in the background. The codes are not keeping anyone safe. They are not generating wealth for anyone. They are simply producing more funerals and more prison identification numbers. Whether you perceive Lul Tim as a menace who escaped justice, a loyal soldier who stood on principle to protect his associate Quando when it mattered most, or simply a provocateur who needs to learn when to put the phone down and exercise restraint, his role in this narrative is undeniable. He occupies a position in hip-hop history that no rational person would desire, yet no one is capable of looking away from. And the fractures this entire saga has exposed, between loyalty and self-preservation, between the hood and the hustle, between holding grudges until they consume you alive and possessing the wisdom to release them and build something new, those fractures are not being repaired anytime soon. Not with new music dropping every week, not with federal cases still pending, not with the internet maintaining a scoreboard of every shot fired and every bar thrown. If anything, every new song, every new diss, and every new indictment that lands only widens the divide and deepens the wounds. Because in the drill world, the past does not remain in the past. It does not heal. It does not forget. It simply sits there, patient, dormant, waiting for the next beat to drop so it can rise right back to the surface all over again. Thank you for watching. If you found this content compelling, select one of the videos appearing on your screen to explore more coverage of this nature.